Hello, my name is Munba from Zambia. Today I am honored to join the African Youth Renaissance. And I would like to speak to you today on reinventing the future as we celebrate today the life of a dear brother and a dear friend, the late Ubong King. The man that inspired me to realize that which other people may think is not possible, with my brother King, it all looked possible. We miss him dearly and thank God for his attitude that he has left with us, the attitude of possibility, a thought leader of our time. His legacy will never depart from us. And we congratulate and salute my dear sister, his dear wife, Onyema Ivy King, who has taken over this legacy and continues to build upon the foundation that my dear brother left with us. My story with him is a great story. May his soul rest in God's peace. Today I would like to speak to you, the young people, including us that are not that young, on a number of things concerning reinventing the future. A very unique subject. Our youth today are encouraged to build on the work and the legacy that has been left for you by those who have gone before us. Sometimes we belittle the efforts of our fathers, especially when we become impatient with so many questions without answers in our time. There's a tendency to think that our founding fathers and our fathers did not do enough. When you look at the backwardness of Africa and some of the things that upset the young people, irritate the young people, we seem to blame the older generation. But you must have everything in context. I want you to remember that at one time they were young as well. Our fathers, our grandfathers were young when they came face to face with the brutality of colonialism, when they came face to face with the philosophy of segregation, of the white people being more superior than the black person. You must understand the circumstances they came from. They did not like what was happening. They became angry at the status quo and began to fight for their liberation. They fought and lost their lives. They left their homes in order to secure the freedoms that we today enjoy, and sometimes take them very lightly. So yes, it is possible for us to blame our forefathers for have not speeded up the development so that Africa looks like the United States or Africa looks like the United Kingdom. But you must look at the context. Most of the African countries are an average of 50 years old, 40, 50 years old. And you must compare that to the United States that is celebrating more than 250 years. And look at Europe that comes from so far back and have had so much time to develop into what they are today. So before we speak down on our fathers and our grandfathers, let's appreciate what they did. However, today the young people are faced with their own challenges of their own generation. While we thank God for how far we have come from liberating, the entire continent, as I speak, has been completely liberated. And this was not a small feat. It was done in the blood of our forefathers. And we will not belittle their sacrifices. We'll honor them, but now it's up to us. The baton is now in our hands to take this country forward. And the only way the young people can take this continent forward and our individual countries is, first of all, to be dissatisfied with the status quo and to be dissatisfied with the progress made so far. And until you get to that place, you cannot be useful as a young person. There are many young people that settle in the status quo and accept that this is what life has presented to them, and they will die with this current status quo. But there are also young people who are not satisfied with where we are and what we've got. And these are the ones I'm speaking to. I'm not speaking to those that are satisfied. I'm speaking to the restless young people of Africa. Young people that believe that there is a better Africa ahead of us. There is a place where we can become the leaders of the world once again. I use the word once again because Africa has been the leader of the world before, when Egypt was the superpower of the world. And all that we celebrate today, whether it's mathematics, science, and language, and culture, that the world is celebrating around us today, came from Africa and Egypt, to be more specific, as the source of human development. So today, let's not look down upon ourselves, but I appeal to the young people in reinventing our future. Let us accept that where we are is not where we want to be. We need to go to our destination, which God has carved out for us. So I want to call on the young people to start a new fight for freedom. A new fight for freedom. Our founding fathers fought for political freedom. But now when you look around us, you are going to realize that we no longer have the freedom to make our own decisions and to carve out our future for ourselves. It is amazing how intertwined our lives are into the progress of the Western world. That to some extent, instead of us being innovators of our own destiny, we have become imitators of other civilizations. And this is what I want to talk about. We were never born to be carbon copies of anybody else. We were not created to be imitators of other individuals and other civilizations. Africa is a unique continent with originality painted all over us. Originality in all ways. And I call on the youth of this continent to stop talking about what we must become or what we should be and start walking in the direction of becoming what we believe we must become. But today, we have to face the negativity of truth, that Africa has been poisoned. We have been poisoned on many fronts. And when I take you back to the United States and the slaves in the United States, they were also poisoned. History tells us that when slaves entered the shores or came to the shores of the United States and were now sold into the plantations of the United States to grow cotton and corn on behalf of the white people, the first thing that happened to them was they changed their last names. They changed their names. If your name was Kwame Katua, they changed you to John James and given you a totally different identity so that your history is forgotten. And so that's why you hear that black Americans have got foreign names, European names, and yet history has names attached to them that are African. But as long as you have an African name, you will always be reminded of where you come from. But the black Americans became liberated when they started to reveal and talk about the realization of the American dream of the founding fathers of the United States, who said that all men were created equal. As they recited that statement from the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, it sunk into their heads that if all men are created equal regardless of race, it means that we must have access to all the facilities, the benefits, and the privileges of every American. That's how Martin Luther King Jr. going forward came into the picture to demand that justice be given, because this justice was God-given and nobody should stand in the way of justice for the black man. He waged a war of the liberation of the black man. And today, the black Americans are free to roam the streets of the United States because somebody became dissatisfied, became impatient, and was unhappy with the status quo. If there was no Martin Luther King Jr. and people of his kind, the black Americans will still be the slaves that they were many years ago. So the world promises an opportunity for change. The world promises an opportunity to have a fresh start and a new beginning. So today, I would like to talk about three issues. The first area is the economic system is rigged against us. So we are poisoned because the economic system of the world is rigged against us. You go to the United States, you get a small job where you're getting $2,000 a month, and right there they're able to work out a system for you to drive a new car and buy a house. You're getting $2,000, $3,000 a month, but the system works to make sure that everybody has access to a comfortable life. They call it the credit world, where they create a credit system that serves the interest of all Americans. That when you meet an American, they look prosperous. They can buy air tickets and fly out of their country. They can buy a car. They can buy a house. But they're getting very little money per month. But their system works for them. Our system in Africa does not work for us. And the global system that we're using today, under which we are trying to perform, is an alien system which is rigged against Africa. So our immediate challenge to the new generation of Africans is that you must now create your own economic system that favors you, because Europe, the United States, and the foreigners are not going to give you a system that will favor an African man. So the good news for us is that we are unbeatable. We have more resources than the United States. We have more resources than Russia. We have more resources than all of Europe. And because of that, we are able to leverage our resources to create an economic system that first favors the black man. And may God raise a nation in Africa which is now going to become the example of the message I'm preaching. My vision, and like you have a vision for your country, my vision for my nation, Zambia, is that Zambia is going to be that country that is going to demonstrate that leveraging on our resources, whether it's gold, diamonds, and the copper and the cobalt we have, the critical minerals that Zambia has and many African countries have, if we can leverage that, then we are going to divorce ourselves from being controlled by economic systems that don't favor us. But this challenge is on the shoulders of the young people of our continent. You don't have to be slaves economically forever. Your forefathers gave you political freedom. Why don't you give your next generation economic freedom? And God has given you everything to achieve that. The second area of where we have been poisoned is the social system has robbed us of our dignity and self-respect. Up to this day, a black person, because of our history, considers himself inferior to a white man. And you don't even have to say it. It's just in your blood. And that's why we sing their songs instead of singing our songs. That's why when we speak English or French, we consider ourselves to have attained something, and we are better than those who do not speak English or French in Africa and speak our traditional languages. We look down upon ourselves. We have been poisoned. Anything that is ours looks inferior to those things that are coming from outside. You, the next generation of young people, have to change that. You have to change that. If you don't change that social problem, we can never rise and be innovative until we accept the fact that we are created in the image of God like any other person globally. So today, that's the second thing. The third thing in which we have been poisoned is that the political system in Africa does not take into account our cultural and spiritual values. That's the truth. The democracy we have today does not help interpret our cultural values. I'll give you an example. We are told that we should go to the elections every 5 years to elect a president and members of parliament. Our people are not educated. Our people do not vote on the basis of quality of leader or because we are poor. And as long as poverty is there, the politicians are going to abuse the poor people by giving them money to vote for them, although they don't have the goods to deliver on behalf of the people of their country. The only way that Africa can actually use democracy effectively is with full education. In fact, you could even be as radical as to say, to vote, you must have a certain qualification to understand why you're voting for that person, so that it's not easy for you to be voted. These are radical decisions that you, the next generation of Africans, have to make. But we are not imitators of others. We are not carbon copies. We are not saying democracy is a bad thing, but we're saying we must tweak it, just like America has tweaked it. America does not have one man, one vote, and yet they're the ones who perpetuate democracy. They vote based on the college voting, which is the blocks and the size of the states determine how many votes that every state can contribute in order to choose a president. How come they're able to do that and we can't do that? The same way they changed the democratic issue of one man, one vote, we can also take into consideration our own factors, cultural, spiritual, and even emotional as Africans, and traditional as Africans, and say we are going to choose our leaders to make sure we choose the best amongst us. But these are the foundational stones we're going to use to get there. Feel free to do that, because that's the only way you can achieve greatness. And finally, let me talk about us, the generation that is going out now through the exit door and leaving it now into your hands. We give you authority as our upcoming youth to abandon systems that have not worked for you and for us in the past. And we give you authority to adopt new pathways that lead us to full freedom and prosperity. Again, let me repeat, you should never be, must never ever be a carbon copy of any other civilization, especially Africa, since you, Africa, are the source of human civilization. From Egypt, the world evolved to become what it has become. Let's take our place back and let's take the leadership of the world. And I am confident it's not long from now when Africa is going to be on top once again, but it's going to be on the shoulders of the next generation of young people. May God bless you as we reinvent the future, to accept the fact that we need to reclaim what belongs to us and innovate for us to have a new generation of Africans. May God bless you, and I wish you well. Thank you.